I knew for a fact that our shooting streak was not going to continue. Yes, we led the league in 3-point shooting, but we all know the Knicks are not comprised with a team full of shooters. So eventually that was going to wear off. And I thought with Austin Rivers being injected into the rotation, we were going to have a player that's a little bit more dangerous from three than the players we were trotting out there, especially without Alec Burks. And he's also a player that can get into the paint, collapse the defense, and create some open shots for his teammates. And that's something he did. The problem was we just weren't hitting shots. Hey, what's going on? Quis here from Sports Vibes TV. And in this video, I just want to give my thoughts on the recent loss the Knicks were handed by the Toronto Raptors. Now, before the game, I dropped a pregame video where I told you what I didn't want to see from the New York Knicks. And as I was watching, everything I didn't want to see is exactly what the Knicks went out there and did. Now, I know the Toronto Raptors were coming in 0 for 3 on the season. And historically, the Knicks have been, the team on the schedule where opposing teams look at us and they say, okay, we're in a funk, but this is kind of a game where we can kind of get things back on the right track. And that's exactly what we saw. Not tonight, but game happened yesterday. That's what we saw yesterday. And the Knicks, I thought were going to have a better chance at winning the game for the simple fact that the Toronto Raptors were without Pascal Siakam. Now, I know the Knicks, we're missing a lot of players as well, but we were missing the same players. We had the same inactives when we went against the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? And we were still able to win by a pretty comfortable margin. So you're going to tell me that the Toronto Raptors, well, yes, they are a better team than the Cavaliers, but to be honest, they have the exact opposite win-loss record, 3-0 compared to 0-3, and they're also missing their best player, which would be Pascal Siakam. Disclaimer, the Cleveland Cavaliers was also missing Kevin Love, who could be arguably their best player, but just for just for argument's purpose, we're just going to omit that. So basically, I thought the Knicks should have performed a lot better, and I thought this was a game we could have won because if you look at the remaining portion of the season, it really doesn't get easier than it is to start. It's a difficult start from game 1 to like game, I think, 10 or 11. So to see us give up a game where we should have been a lot more competitive, to lose by 17 to Toronto Raptors team that, yes, is a former championship roster, but the bulk of that championship roster is gone. Gasol is gone, Ibaka is gone, Kawhi is gone. So that's still a game we should have won. Now, there were some bright spots in regards to the actual New York Knicks and our players. Austin Rivers finally got to play for the New York Knicks. He made his debut. And to me, I think he looked pretty good. Now, a lot of people were saying that Austin Rivers isn't necessarily a great facilitator. He's more so a player that looks for his own shot. But for a player that came back from his first injury, he was able to get into the paint and find some open players. I saw a budding chemistry between Austin Rivers and Kevin Knox. Now, another disclaimer, that could be because those were really two of the only bright spots on the Knicks for this game. But hopefully that is really some legit chemistry that may be building between them. I think Austin Rivers assisted on a couple of Kevin Knox's buckets. And in the pregame video, I really was excited for Austin Rivers' return because I knew for a fact that our shooting streak was not going to continue. Yes, we led the league in 3-point shooting, but we all know the Knicks are not comprised with a team full of shooters. So eventually that was going to wear off. And I thought with Austin Rivers being injected into the rotation, we were going to have a player that's a little bit more dangerous from three than the players we were trotting out there, especially without Alec Burks. And he's also a player that can get into the paint, collapse the defense, and create some open shots for his teammates. And that's something he did. The problem was we just weren't hitting shots. So Austin Rivers, I think he still had like 5 assists. Yeah, he had 5 assists, but he definitely could have had more than that if some of the other players would have hit their shots. And another thing that was encouraging from seeing Austin Rivers out there on the court is the fact that I was able to visualize how he could look if he was on the court with Emmanuel quickly. Austin Rivers shows that he can at times be a facilitator. So imagine if he's playing the two off ball, Emmanuel quickly is on the court with him. Now we have two guards on the court that are threats to shoot from three, and also two guards that can get into the paint and also facilitate or find open players when they become open. So you're going to see a much more modern looking offense if we have IQ and Austin Rivers out there. So that's really what I was looking at when I was looking at Austin Rivers on the court, trying to see how he could fit on the team when this team is actually at full health. And, you know, the prospect of him and IQ as the backcourt to me is another thing to look for or to keep an eye on as the season progresses. Because I really want to see what their chemistry could be like. Because I think that could potentially be a dynamic backcourt. So keep an eye on Austin Rivers and IQ and to see how they gel together once IQ is healthy and back. Another player I was saying that Austin Rivers looked good with, I mentioned earlier, was Kevin Knox. And I liked what I saw from Kevin Knox. There were some things that need to be corrected. His shot selection, he shot, 2 for 8 from 3, 5 for 14 for the game. He would have shot a much better shooting percentage if he had better shot selection. There were some shots he took, and I was just like, that's a bad shot. You know, I understand you're performing in front of your friends and family, so, you know, I get it, but there were some shots he just shouldn't have took, especially one from the corner three that was an air ball. It was brutal. Definitely shouldn't have taken that shot. But there were other things you can be positive about. He was aggressive attacking the basket. He looked good out there. I mean, I would have liked a little bit more facilitating. There was one pass that was a terrible pass that he threw almost cross court that kind of sailed on him, but that could have been because he had the bruised hand, something that he suffered in the game. But all in all, I think he had a promising performance. Like I said, he looked good. It's just, can he build off this performance and can he perform like this in a win? It's one thing to perform like this when we're getting smoked by 17. It's another thing when you're performing like this and it's actually, you know, helping to catapult the team to victory. So that's the next thing I want to see Kevin Knox do. I want to see his performances or his good performances come and lead, you know, directly to a win. He doesn't have to be the catalyst for a win, but I want to come on here and say, yes, Kevin Knox was a big piece in us winning this game. Some of the other players out there, you know, Mitchell Robinson, he had a quiet game. He was only out there for 25 minutes. He didn't get into too much foul trouble, so I'm not sure why he only played 25 minutes. Maybe because our bigs weren't doing the greatest covering or rotating out to stop some of the three-point shooters, which is really what beat us over the head in the second half. So that's why we're probably seeing less minutes played by Peyton and Noel. Noel only played 18 minutes. Also, just to talk on RJ Barrett as well. RJ Barrett was a little bit disappointing. I thought at this point in the season we would have seen a little bit more from him. He started the season off shooting on fire, but it seems like he emptied the clip in that first game, and since then, you know, his shooting is virtually non-existent. And if RJ doesn't get his shooting together, I think the Knicks are going to have to reanalyze who we decide to build with next offseason. I don't want to, you know, jump to conclusions and say RJ's never going to be able to shoot. But if we're going to see RJ continue to perform like this, something that I hope is not going to happen, but, you know, there's that slim chance that he could continue to play like this. And if he does, the Knicks are going to have to look hard and long at this roster and decide who is the player we're actually going to build around. Because if we don't get great production from RJ, you would assume we're still going to have another high first round draft pick. So are we going to use that pick to pick up somebody that's going to work well around RJ, or are we going to pick a player that we're going to hope RJ is able to fit around? And if not, we're going to figure that out when we get there. I'm hoping it's going to be picking a player that's going to fit around RJ, but at this point, we don't know. RJ hasn't shown us enough to definitively say this is RJ's team. Like right now, Julius Randle, even though Julius Randle didn't have a great game this season, this game, he still has looked better than RJ, and I'm not sure that the team is going to actually move from Julius Randle at the trade deadline or before the season is over. So if the team decides, hey, Julius Randle's performing much better, and the fact that RJ and Julius Randle don't click, I have no idea what this team is going to decide to do or do when they make that decision. So once again, as a Knicks fan, I'm really not sure what RJ is going to take in order to get his shooting together. To go 0 from 8 from 3 is crazy. Like, I'm appreciative that he was able to contribute in other areas. He had 8 rebounds, he had 3 assists, but still 0 for 8 from 3 is wild. And to go 4 for 19 is wild too, because one of those 4 was like with a first play out of halftime. Was that for RJ? No, RJ was the assist on there. RJ passed it to, I think, Peyton, and Peyton is the one that scored. Yeah, it was a nice play. It was a very nice play. So that I was wrong on that one. Disregard that one. But the fact that RJ has not looked good to me is disheartening. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think about RJ, because I know on this channel, I've been preaching about RJ. I know I've been saying, all he needs to do is develop that jump shot and he's going to be a problem. But if he is going to continue to shoot like this, and the defense and the opposing defense is not going to be forced to respect him, he's going to look more so like a guard version of Julius Randle. He's going to drive into the paint. It's going to be cluttered, and he's going to go up against multiple defenders and miss, which is something that we've seen, or I've seen time and time again in the last 3 games. The first game, he played admirably. I'm not going to sit here and say he was terrible, but the last 3, the last 4 have been rough, to be honest. I think they said he's like 0 for 20 something in threes, which is crazy. Reggie Bullock is terrible too. He's got to get out of the starting lineup. Hopefully some of these players get back as quickly as possible. No pun intended. I got to stop saying that. I don't even be doing it on purpose. But yeah, Reggie Bullock was rough. Hopefully we can play him less. Hopefully we get some more from Austin Rivers, and then when Obi comes back and Alec Burks, we don't have to play Reggie Bullock as much, because I've personally seen as much as I've need to see from Reggie Bullock. So you guys, let me know what you think about the game down in the comments. Were you as disappointed as me, or were you expecting us to not be as competitive as we were? All right. Once again, I'm Quis, host of Sports Vibes TV, and I'm out.